We're going to talk about what has happened in Ukraine on this day of the Russian invasion. We'll examine the actions and the strategies, both military and political. Now, if this is your first time watching, my name is Darren Gertis. I'm a professor who's built multiple leadership programs at Charleston Southern University. So we'll also view these events through the lens of leadership. And I also wrote a book about Zelensky called I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride, and you can find it on Amazon. Okay, so here's the update for day 114. So militarily, not a lot has changed. The front lines still look like the front lines. If you look over the course of the week, what you'll see is that from Izium, the Russians have been spreading south, and you can look at the map and you can just see like they were here at one day and they were here another day. They're spreading north from Popasna. You see the same kind of movement. They're moving forward. In Severodonetsk, you're also seeing that they're taking more ground. So it's bad all the way around. So according to the governor, Serhii Haidai, he said that, quote, it's now impossible and physically dangerous to get out of the plant due to constant shelling and fighting. There are 568 people in the shelter, including 38 children. So they're pretty trapped. It's looking kind of bad. The Russians have taken more ground around it. It's just bad. Now, that's a pretty bleak picture. But I want to also make you aware of this. At the same time, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, he is the head of the British military, said, "quote Russia has strategically lost already." And another quote President Putin has used about 25% of his army's power to gain a tiny amount of territory, and 50,000 people are either dead or injured. Russia is failing. Boris Johnson visited the Ukraine on Friday. He brought a package of sanctions, including training up to 10,000 soldiers every 120 days. Help's on the way in multiple forms, but that's not even the big news. The big news today was that the European Commission president, her name is Ursula von der Leyen, announced that they are approving Ukraine's candidate status for the European Union. Now, that's only part one. The way the European Union works, there's a European Commission, that's where she's from, and then the European Council, which, as I understand, is a larger body of all the different countries, and they have to vote on this as well, and they'll be voting on it soon. Nevertheless, she said, we recommend to give Ukraine candidate status on the understanding that a country will carry out a number of important reforms. Ukraine has clearly shown commitment to live up to European values and standards. Zelensky was very happy about that, as you can imagine. He said, we are now one step from the beginning of the full-fledged integration with the European Union. We have a positive conclusion from the European Commission on the candidacy, and this is a historical achievement. And he's right, it is. It's a historical achievement. It's moving them down the road that they want to go. Meanwhile, Putin is in St. Petersburg at the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, and and he's saying this: we all hear about so-called Putin inflation. Our actions to liberate the Donbas have nothing to do with that. It is the result of systemic errors of the US administration and the European bureaucracy. For them, our operation is a lifeline that allows them to blame everything on us. And then a little bit later, he also said, this quote, the European Union has finally lost its political sovereignty and its bureaucratic elites are dancing to someone else's tune. I would imagine that he means the United States with that, accepting everything they are told from above, causing harm to their own population and their own economy, their own business. Okay, so Putin is in a very different place mentally, or I'm not even sure what he's saying, but he's waging a propaganda war. He's not doing it terribly effectively in the West. Other countries, and I talked about this in a different episode earlier, it was a separate episode talking about like who lines up with Putin and who lines up with the West, and so you can go back to that. But Zelensky is combating that propaganda effort. Like Zelensky talked about this in one of his speeches. He said he gave a speech today where he hit all the same themes Europe must unite. It's been so many days. Russia's waging economic warfare. Russia is deliberately creating a food crisis. But then he added this really interesting line. He said, Russia is perhaps the world's largest investor in propaganda, and not just for domestic audience. Russia is spending billions of dollars a year to deceive foreign audience and to incite hostility. And the connection between propaganda and war is obvious. In the first months of this year, Russia's propaganda budget was tripled. Now, that's true. And we know, I mean, even if you go back to the American elections in 2016, I read a fascinating book that was talking about this, the Russian way of waging war or something along those lines. And you can also see the same kind of thing in Putin's playbook, which is another fascinating book. There are some people, particularly on the American liberal left, that think, well, he was just trying to get Trump elected. No, he wasn't doing that. He was trying to destabilize the United States, and he didn't care if he was destabilizing Trump or destabilizing Clinton. He was trying to sow animosity within the United States. And so you'd see that, like Charlottesville, he's happy to support both the white racists in Charlottesville and drum up propaganda about that, as he is to support Black Lives Matter in order to drum up more hostility there. So that's what his agenda is, and Zelensky's very right about the about what is going on with the propaganda budget. Now, the fascinating thing is Zelensky has been masterful in opposing that. I can't think of any other statesman who have such a great background in media. It's kind of like Ronald Reagan was. He was called the great communicator for a reason, because he had that background as an actor. Few other statesmen, I think, have the kind of background that would enable him to take this fight to Putin, to wage a media war for the hearts and minds of the free world. And by the way, today was Zelensky's 200th speech since the war began. Hey, if this video was helpful, hit like to help others find it in YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe so that you can stay informed. And one more thing, if you are moved to contribute to the humanitarian aid for Ukraine, I have a link below for Samaritan's Purse. If you want to give, be sure to give only to reputable organizations. There's a lot of scammers out there. Thanks for your time.